Bonjour et bienvenue à Paris Confluence 2017. Confluence brings together industry stalwarts, thought leaders and practitioners all together under one roof to discuss, deliberate, and build awareness on current and future technologies that either can destroy organizations or catapult them to the next level. As Vimal mentioned, we always have cutting-edge technologies to discuss during Confluence. Last year, we had artificial intelligence. Year before that, it was Internet of Things. And in 2014 itself, we had the future of engineering. And today, along with Altran, we have a very exciting topic that the speakers will discuss all of the afternoon today. And it's called Engineering a Digital Tomorrow. Thank you, Altran, for hosting this with us. In 1962, John F. Kennedy visited the NASA Space Center, and he saw a janitor, and he walked up to him and said, "Bonjour, je m'appelle Jack Kennedy. Que faites-vous?" "Eh bien, monsieur le président," lui répondit le gardien, "j'ai de mettre un homme sur la lune." "Mr. President, I'm helping to put a man on the moon." And indeed, he did. 7 years later, in 1969, we all know about July 20th, very famous date. But do we know that they used 400,000 technologists, and they spent in today's currency $150 billion, and took 8 years? The reason I say this is, fast forward to 2017, 2018, Team Indus is in the final stages of the Google Lunar X project. And they have spent about $40 million in building this model. And there are 5 finalists. And the prize money is $30 million. So the objective is to launch a module. It will go around the moon. It will land. And then it will move for a certain distance and transmit high-definition images. That is the objective. And there are 3 teams. There is Moon Express. I've just taken 3 teams randomly out of the 5. You've heard of Moon Express from US, and again, $50 million and 40 people. You can see the difference and transformation. And then we have Hakuto from Japan. And if I just take a look at the tremendous innovation and the digital innovation that has taken place over the last 60 years since the launch of the first module till today, it has been absolutely phenomenal. But take another example very close to our heart. You've all seen this. Many of you have seen this picture. This is the 1927 BMW in the Munich showroom, the first IC engine car that was there. Fast forward, and we have seen this. Some of us have grown up with it, and our parents have driven this, and you can see the odometer, the speedometer, the oil meter, temperature sensors, and all in the 1980s. 30 years later, you have the hybrid. Right? And you see the exponential growth. And then, almost 5 years later, you have the autonomous cars. And again, if you look at a similar chart of innovation versus time and the digital innovation that we have, and BMW, as we all know, has announced by 2027, 2028, they will phase out the IC engine. So it's over 100 years since 1927 to 2028 that there has been tremendous innovation as far as automotive is concerned that impacts our daily lives. The question to ask ourselves, is innovation just a prerogative of large corporations? Vinay Bharadwaj, he is the design lead of from India, Space Kids team, designed Kalamsat, named after the President of India. It's the world's smallest satellite. It was put into orbit by NASA in June 21st this year. It was fully 3D printed on carbon polymer, fits on your hand, 3.8-inch cubic, and it has all the sensors. It has a temperature sensor, heat sensor, including a radioactivity sensor. And that has gone into satellite. Sandra Ray, her startup Glowy, makes biological lighting systems using transgenic bacteria to produce their own light with the help of genetic engineering. A bioluminescent sticker that shopkeepers can put on their windows, which is dark at day and glows at night. Ray's radical sources could reduce energy consumption substantially for many years to come. So I've just taken an example from India, I've taken an example from the US, and the third example is this young kid. He's from Italy, from Europe, and many of you may have heard of his name, Valerio Pagliarino. He got the EU Science of the Year award for 2016. And what did he do? He invented the, thank you, that won't stay. Huh. He invented the laser WAN technology. It's a revolutionary technology that uses infrared to transmit 500 megabits for data. So laser WAN is able to bring 500 megabits from power plants to the villages. So this technology will just address the digital divide that exists. And just look at the innovation in technology, and these are all kids between the ages of 16 to 20 that are doing what large corporations did 30 years ago. But if we take a step back and say, why is it happening today? What are the underlying factors for some of these things that are happening? The first one, and this is the way I look at it, cost of knowledge. Cost of knowledge has gone down. It's not a barrier to entry anymore. Everybody has access to knowledge, and so do these people. It's very easily accessible. The second one is cost of connections. Sensor cost is going down, 10 cents a sensor. Everything is going to get connected around the world. And the third one, what I talk about, is the cost of prediction. Now, cost of prediction is, we've seen about what the Watson can do, but it has three components in it. There is compute, there is storage, and there is the algorithm. All of it put together. And if you just look at the examples that I just gave, about a rocket going to the moon, you're controlling it, you're sending back images, autonomous cars, and you just think about these elements in the examples that I gave. Cost of knowledge, cost of prediction, and what I think is, this is what is truly driving digital innovation. However, all of this doesn't make any sense unless it impacts our daily lives. Right? We can have innovation, we can send rockets to the moon, we can do all of it, but how does it affect our daily lives? So we have health, we have transportation, we have finance. And I've just taken one example out of this. And while I was doing my research, it's a very interesting example and very relevant for today's discussions in the evening. What I call is the digital innovation readiness. So this is publicly available data from MasterCard, and they have what they call the Mobile Payments Readiness Index, MPRI. And they have published this. So they're ranking countries on basis of this and their ability for a nation that is ready as far as mobility is concerned. And they just look at the countries, the more advanced as far as index is concerned, it's on your left, less advanced is on your right. And you can see the aberration here. Look at Kenya, 40.4. And you take a look at this, and you can see some of the countries in emerging markets here, and you can see some of the developed countries on the world that are on the other side. It's food for us to thought, what does MPRI really mean? So we talked about the rate and pace of innovation. We talked about that innovation is not a prerogative of large corporations anymore. It has got democratized. And we talked about connections, we talked about knowledge, and we talked about prediction, right? But obviously the best, and one of my favorite quotes, we've all seen this, way to predict the future is always to create it. But before I end, remember the janitor, la gardien, right? No matter how small or what your job is, for everybody has a role in an organization to help build and take the organization to the next frontier. I will now move over with the pleasure of introducing the speakers. The first speaker just after me is Pari Natarajan. Pari will be speaking about how traditional enterprises are losing their stronghold to digital enterprises and the challenges companies are facing in the digital transformation journey. And very interestingly, and maybe a little controversially, he's also going to talk about what French companies can do to take the leap and bring the next exponential growth. Then we have Gilles. Gilles' keynote is Product and Engineering Digitalization and Lessons Learned from Automotive. That's again going to be very interesting. He's going to talk about new technologies and software and how they are transforming the automotive industry. Self-driving cars are going to be omnipresent. How is it going to change our lives? Pascal Brier. He's going to talk about embracing digital disruption, finding ways to react to digital disruption. What should your strategies be as an organization? What is core and what is context? And how do you successfully deploy a roadmap to transform enterprises across the industry? We then have Curtis Carson. He's head of engineering for Airbus, and his talk is demystifying smart manufacturing. And it's very interesting because the changing consumer habits is actually affecting supply chain. So what does it mean for supply chain? How does it need to be agile, responsive, and fast? What are smart factories? When do you start your transformation? What do you do about your transformation? How do you face these new challenges? Very interesting. At the end of this, we have two very interesting panels. These are 40 minutes each, and we have a very nice panel participants. So the chair will be Vijay, who is part of the Zinnov team, and we have Vincent, Anne, Christophe, and Olivier, and they're going to talk about digital durability. So how can enterprises invest in creating a culture that anticipates disruption, that foresees disruption? Why is it important for organizations to understand consumer pain points and build solutions? How do you design user-centric organizations? A very interesting panel. And right at the end, we have our last panel, last and not least. We have Luke, Corinne, Andre, and Olivia. It's about co-innovation. How do you co-innovate, build the ecosystem in, and drive innovation? So the panelists will talk about how startups and enterprises have partnered together to co-innovate, share their experiences and successes, and what really we have learned for it. And then right at the end, we have a closing note by my colleague, Vamsi. But before I end and bring Vimal back on stage, one quick slide. Many of you have heard of Zinnov, many of you have not heard of Zinnov. But what do we do? Zinnov is a research strategy and a consulting company. We're a global company that works with Fortune 1000 customers. And we were in existence for almost 15 years. Our focus and specialty is product and digital engineering. That is what we are well known globally for. Zinnov Zones is our brand name that we rank and rate organizations on their performance as far as product engineering is concerned. Our consulting, as you can see, the 4 layers of consulting that are there are powered by Drop. Drop is a big data technology platform that powers enterprise decision-making with both science and human curation. Drop targets use cases such as sales enablement, global talent planning, and procurement optimization. With that, thank you once again and welcome. My colleague Vimal, over to you.